Today, drones attacked two critically important facilities in Russia, and Iran may strike US military bases. Launchers are no longer being sent from Iran to Russia. Meanwhile, Israel has carried out a new series of strikes. They chose extremely interesting targets. So where, after all, is the Achilles heel of the Ayatollah's regime hidden? And also about how Elon Musk became the digital messiah of the protests in Iran. We'll also talk about underground cities packed to the brim with ballistic missiles and drones. All this and more in today's episode. There's a lot of interesting stuff ahead. If you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. So let's dive in. Ukrainian drones have carried out another very smart, precise, and well-planned attack on two extremely interesting facilities in the Russian Federation. These two facilities are of critical importance to the Russian military-industrial complex and not just to the military sector. So what happened last night? At around 2 in the morning, small but proud drones paid a visit to Nevinomiskazot. That's a large plant, as the local governor mentioned. So when the local governor says that drone debris was observed falling in the industrial zone, it means they hit the target and hit it well. And there are already results regarding the aftermath. The control center for the installations was damaged there. They only managed to contain the fire by morning, but a fortress regime has been introduced at the facility. And around 4 in the morning, other small but proud drones paid a visit to the Novokibishevsk petrochemical plant. The local governor there turned out to be a bit bolder. Locals filmed videos showing columns of smoke rising above the facility, but the governor said that it was supposedly just debris and some grass burning, and that they don't know anything. Some of the installations were shut down, but both targets are dual-purpose facilities. That is, they produce for the agricultural sector and also play an extremely important role in Russian munitions programs. This Nevinomiskazot, part of the Eurochem group, produces ammonium nitrate. They produce 1 million tons per year. It's a powerful facility. And accordingly, components for artillery shells, and of course components for fertilizers. Therefore, a reduction in ammonium nitrate output by 35 to 40%, according to damage assessments, already creates a shortage for the plants in Dzerzhinsk and Kotovsk, where shells are produced. And of course, a sharp increase in fertilizer prices for farmers. I think they won't be too happy about that. In general, of course, when we were hitting oil refineries, there was a time when 2 or 3 refineries were hit in a single day, and farmers started to panic, fearing there wouldn't be enough fuel for sowing. That is really, if the strikes had continued, I think Russian refineries would probably be operating at only about 20% capacity by now, if not less. The Novokibishevsk petrochemical plant processes more than 1 million tons of hydrocarbon feedstock. That is, they produce ethanol there, and as byproducts rubber for rocket fuel casings. And most importantly, they make the binder for composites used in drone bodies. So this is just a jackpot, as they say. That's why ammonium nitrate plus benzene, basic building blocks of munitions chemistry, were both produced at these two plants. It's important to understand that one is located 600 kilometers from the border and the other almost 1,000. Well, probably closer to 900. And these attacks demonstrate the vulnerability of the deep core chemical industry of the Russian Federation. This is not the first and not the last time that chemical industry plants are being hit. It's really, really important. You know what else is important? That these units that are going out of order, the Russians don't produce them themselves. So they have to order them through detours, bypassing restrictions, and in general, there's also the social factor, yes. So when it comes to fertilizers, to the farmers of the south and the Volga region, take note, this is not like stealing grain from the Kherson region. That's why, among other things, military production is also slowing down. And if another strike is carried out there, then basically they'll have to transport components through Belarus and Kazakhstan. Some of the components, at least. Repairs will drag on for more than 3 weeks. That's already according to the assessment of the Ministry of Defense. Well, what did you expect? By the way, friends, yesterday we finished the fundraiser for Sasha, for Uncle Sasha. And just so you understand, we closed it in less than a day. So today, Nina, Sasha's niece, wrote to me saying that everyone there is just in shock. They didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Once again, I am convinced of what a powerful force we are together. Now, Sasha and his comrades have a dome-type electronic warfare system. So we are truly doing a great thing together. I am extremely grateful to you. Sometimes I can't even find the words. Thank you all so much. Now, let's talk about Iran and Israel and about news about Ukraine in this context. I took a look at who was most outraged about Iran's plans to develop nuclear weapons being disrupted. So let's go ahead and name this shameful list. Tucker Carlson, the Russian Foreign Ministry. On Solovyov's show, it's basically a non-stop broadcast of how Iran is successfully striking Israel. And in general, Iran is mighty and will show everyone what it's capable of. Next, Alternative for Germany condemned it. Guterres talked about him yesterday, the head of the IAEA as well. So do you see what kind of company has gathered here? Basically, just pay attention to those who are saying poor Iran, an attack on peaceful nuclear energy. How could you do such a thing? Well, Iran responded with a ballistic missile strike on Israel. According to the Jerusalem Post, there were 4 people killed and 70 injured. I saw footage all neighborhoods there were seriously damaged. So it turns out that the air defense system didn't intercept some of the ballistic missiles, but most of them, of course, were shot down and intercepted. And now, against the backdrop of Israeli strikes on Iran, videos of Iranian underground weapons arsenals are being leaked online. Honestly, I was just blown away. I won't show that footage here. I think you've already seen it. I'll get hit with copyright claims. Russian bots are just sitting there, rubbing their hands, waiting to file copyright strikes. By the way, I'll get to those cities in a moment. That's going to be interesting. You know what? They're so sneaky about it. For example, on the Telegram channel. So if you play some music without mentioning the copyright, you might get a strike on your video on a part of that video. So what do? I've already fallen for this once. For example, they post a video of Kadyrov. And as we all know, any video with Kadyrov is just pure cringe. And Cringeslav Kadyrov can confirm that. So they play this video, and in the background, almost imperceptibly, very, very quietly, they play some copyrighted music. Someone takes this video and uploads it to their own channel, and then, using search the copyright detection algorithm works perfectly, they find it and check. Is this for Kadyrov or against him? Is it opposition content or not? If it's opposition content, they file a strike, claiming the music is being used without permission. That's how cunning they are. So about the Israelis, we wiped them out by the hundreds here. Yesterday, they swarmed in. The topic of Israel and Iran was probably handed down to them from above, straight from their playbook. And they rushed in here, getting wiped out by the dozens, maybe even by the hundreds, I think. So against the backdrop of strikes on Iran, videos of underground weapons arsenals are being leaked. In other words, the Islamic Republic has built entire underground cities filled with missiles, drones, and the necessary infrastructure. Well, who would have doubted that, right? Autocratic, these dictatorial regimes, aside from enriching themselves, what else do they do? Enriching themselves and producing weapons, digging bunkers, repression, creating new types of killing tools, testing them in short, everything threatening all their neighbors. And they also love to wage wars. And most importantly, everything has to be reliably hidden, because they understand that one way or another, they will inevitably have to fight. So about these underground cities, for context, from 2015 up to this year, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has built a network of about 35 underground bases, each at a depth of 80 to 150 meters, with tunnels up to 15 kilometers long. Moreover, these tunnels are designed so that 2 launcher vehicles on chassis can easily pass each other inside. Well, that is 2, so to speak, stunted Kamaz trucks. And even then, there will still be space left over. So it's clear why they released this video to show that, by the way. It could be old, it might not even be from here, but that's not the point. They're demonstrating that, it's impossible to destroy all the launchers. And in the video, the launchers are just lined up, the vehicles standing in a row. Well, as for the people, they just don't care about the people. Now, launchers with underground bases, that's something else. And on top of that, they're showing their invulnerability in the face of Israeli strikes. But I want to tell you, Israel will get to them there as well. Why is this important for us? Because Israel is now actively engaged in destroying both the launchers and what's left of the Iranian aircraft there. Because I'm reading you news from May 10th, Iran is planning to transfer Fateh 360 short-range ballistic missile launchers to Russia in the near future. Where do you think Moscow will use them? naturally in the war against Ukraine. So in short, these launchers aren't going anywhere else anymore. They need them for themselves, and that will be the main excuse for the Ayatollah's regime as to why they can't send them to the Russians. The discussion about supplying ballistic missiles from Iran has been going on for a long time. Everything that is now being destroyed in Iran, and by the way, before this, military production was destroyed in Syria as well, including Iranian production. All of that won't be sent to Ukraine. Theoretically, I think that's clear. Well, Israel struck the area near Tehran, where Supreme Leader Khamenei's residence and the Iranian presidential complex are located. The New York Times reports this right away. The Supreme Leaders run to their bunkers. That's just how they do things. And then there's all the talk about, oh, no, you had no right. Peaceful atom. And in general, poor Iran, evil Israel attacked. You see, one of the key reasons for the existence of the Islamic Republic of Iran is the elimination of the State of Israel. This needs to be understood. This is the official position. It's declared in documents, in various speeches, in some government programs. That's it. For us, Ukrainians are familiar with this too. After all, according to some Russians, we are a fictional country. Country 404, invented by Lenin. You remember all this, right? In general, we shouldn't exist at all. Our territory is supposed to be divided up and handed over to different states. We've heard all this. We remember all of it. That's why Iran is an existential threat to Israel. And naturally, Israel isn't liked in Russia. By the way, this everyday anti-Semitism. Let me tell you what I think about it. But first, let me remind you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And about everyday anti-Semitism. This is not some kind of anomaly at all. It's the result of more than 200 years of conditioning where the Jew is always the enemy. With money, he's different, he's an outsider. There were different pogroms at different times, different waves of these pogroms. All these jokes, especially during Soviet times, jokes about Jews, jokes about how if there's no water in the tap. By the way, it wasn't just everyday anti-Semitism, everyone was hated there. They made jokes about everyone. Remember Soviet jokes about the Chukchi or about someone else, or those idiotic Russian Nasha Russia sketches about citizens of Tajikistan. Well, in general, it's all clear. By the way, Russians see my last name and go, ah, a Jew. Why aren't you in Israel? But they don't realize that surnames like mine aren't only Jewish. But never mind, we won't tell them, so as not to overload the 90% of Putin supporters' brains with this information. So, under Putin, post-Soviet Russia not only failed to overcome everyday anti-Semitism, it actually rebooted the old stereotypes. It's like they're saying, no, what are you talking about? We're not anti-Semites. But if someone's Jewish, then they must be an oligarch, a Jew stole something, and so on and so forth. The fact that Putin's multi-ethnic O0 cooperative is stealing well, that's no big deal. And then there's Iran's nuclear program. It was created specifically for the destruction of the State of Israel. There was never supposed to be any peaceful nuclear energy there at all. Obviously, under the pretext of peaceful nuclear energy, they were developing and building nuclear weapons. There is no other purpose for this nuclear program, nor can there be. And when the Iranians reached the final stage of developing their nuclear weapons, naturally, Israel was just sitting and waiting for them to finish, and then waiting to see if they'll launch or not. That's not really an option. Israel is a very small country. So if Iran were to create even a few nuclear warheads, it would be an enormous problem. And we have heard, seen, and read statements from top Iranian officials saying that as soon as the first bomb is ready, while it's still warm, it will immediately be launched at Israel. So to just sit and wait would be tantamount to suicide. And let me remind you, Iran is in fact in a state of war with us. For years now they've been involved. We know about the Shahids, we know about the components. As for what else they're supplying, where and to whom, how they help circumvent sanctions and dual-use goods, that all needs to be investigated. But this is an enemy, this is the axis of evil. Russia, Iran, North Korea, there you have it. In our context, this is a separate issue. I just imagine how much easier and simpler it would have been for Ukraine if Russia didn't have the Shahids. Just imagine that. Thanks in quotation marks, of course, to Iran. And in general, any strike against any link in the axis of evil Russia, North Korea, or Iran weakens the entire axis. So yes, if axis, that's right. Right now, I know there are people sitting on the other side of the screen with a dull dictionary just waiting to throw it at me. They'll probably shoot for the axles. Well, and Israel attacked dozens of targets in Iran. Missile infrastructure facilities were hit, as well as launchers. There's basically a whole hunt going on for these launches. But we can see that instead of developing the state, building up the economy, creating a city, a country, a garden, they're digging into the underground nuclear labs, military cities. Well, it's all clear, but why, I wonder, are they doing this? Just to have them? No, they were preparing for a big war. And Iran is threatening to strike American military bases. CNN reports this, citing a high-ranking Iranian official. But I think this is just a leak like, hey, maybe you in the US should somehow influence Israel. They will strike at regional bases, and not just those of the US, but of all supporters of Israel. Well, the US is officially helping Israel, supplying weapons, providing protection from airstrikes. So statements from Iranian officials are a direct threat. This is part of a certain strategy of asymmetric response from Iran as one possible way to retaliate. Technically, this is much easier than attacking Israel because US bases are much closer to Iranian territory. But here, the main risk is the direct involvement of Washington in a war against Iran. And if Tehran feels it is ready to make huge sacrifices, it could create enormous problems for Trump and the US. So I think this is a deliberate leak. Of course, no one in their right mind would do that, although we are talking about the Ayatollah's regime here, after all. No one is going to strike American bases. What I think might happen, as it did once before, is that they'll hit empty bases, having given advance warning, so that no one is there. No distraction, just, we need to show something so as not to look completely, in front of our own people. So they need to demonstrate something just so they don't completely lose face in the region. Let's carefully launch something at your bases, and there shouldn't be anyone there. We'll warn you in advance. That's what I believe. Now, here's an important question. Is it possible, by striking certain targets, to plunge, could Israel now create a country-level collapse in Iran? And in a few days, people would take to the streets there, protests and so on. They could. And there are very specific places that Israel could strike right now and create exactly this kind of problem for Iran. But this isn't Putin, who strikes energy facilities thinking, let me plunge Ukraine into darkness. Just imagine giant Russia, nuclear-armed. Let's just turn off the lights now. I still remember how Russians would say, yeah, so do you have electricity over there? Well, ha, there's going to be a blackout and so on. You should look at yourselves. The money that was supposed to go toward modernizing the power grid, the roads, sewage systems, inspections, and repairing dams, which from time to time end up wiping out an entire village for you. All that money went to the war, so you should keep an eye on your own energy sector. We'll fix everything here. Ukrainians are like something hits buzzed. Well, in no time, everything's already fixed. It's in Russia where things can stand broken for a long time. So regarding what these facilities are and how Israel could simply wipe out Iran and send it back to the Stone Age, that is if they want to. Let me emphasize this once again. But Netanyahu addressed the people of Iran. Go ahead, now is the best time. The government is weak. Go out and overthrow them. And he emphasized this. I think he even spoke in Farsi. And he emphasized that Israel is not fighting against the Iranian people because protest sentiments are extremely strong in Iran right now. Remember the Women Life protests? That was the protest. So there is a strong protest mood there. Now, Iran's Achilles heel is gas. 71 to 73% of all electricity is generated from natural gas. Iran itself is among the top 4 largest consumers of gas, consuming up to 900 million cubic meters, with 70% of that going to the residential sector. And this South Pars field, there is a cascade of 14 phases where gas is extracted, purified, processed, condensate is produced, and so on. So 14, let's put it this way, 14 links, and almost every one of them is critical. That is, if one link is taken out, Iran completely plunges into rolling blackouts. There is an extreme concentration of these plants there because the processing facilities, 70% of them are located within just a 20-kilometer area. This is the Achilles heel. And of course, there is also the Shahid Raja'i port, which is called the gateway of imports. Over 40% of all imports to Iran go through this port. So it's also an Achilles, well, let's say a smaller Achilles heel. An explosion at the terminal. You remember in April of this year, the Iranian authorities said that it was caused by chemical reagents. In reality, the explosion there happened because containers with chemicals suddenly violently exploded. There was ammonium perchlorate, which is used in the production of rocket fuel. Well, all these underground cities have shown us exactly what it's being imported for. So I think it didn't just blow up on its own. Mossad has a long reach. Well, there's also the Khark oil terminal, which is located on an island. About 90% of oil and petroleum product exports go through there. Plus, there's a modernized tank farm. The most interesting thing, Iran is under sanctions. That is well, but it manages to circumvent these sanctions so successfully. It also has its own shadow fleet. By the way, there's a certain competition between the shadow fleets of the Russian Federation and Iran. As soon as a country is put under sanctions, it needs ships to transport this sanctioned oil. And there aren't enough for everyone, so Russia has been taking a bit from Iran's shadow fleet. So that's how things stand. Therefore, if Israel wanted to, I'll emphasize again, it could take out the port infrastructure, and I believe there's already been a strike on one refinery. And then Iran would face major problems. They haven't really diversified their risks. I'm not even mentioning the gas fields and processing. In other words, it would be an immediate collapse there. That's how it is. And of course, when gasoline prices went up in Iran in 2019, I believe there were some really serious protests. That's why up to 70% of households receive gas and electricity at subsidized rates. If the infrastructure gets heat, then it's all about ration cards and everyone out on the streets. And of course, Iran has been operating under sanctions for a long time. I remember Trump was indignant and said, and he's right, by the way, he was right about this, that they were giving Iran a hard time in my presence. They weren't selling that much oil, they didn't have that many tankers or that shadow fleet. But now, somehow, everyone just turned a blind eye. That's true. Under Joseph Biden, they've kind of let this whole thing slide a bit. Yes, I think that if the sanctions had been imposed, look, Trump actually announced them, but right now these sanctions aren't being implemented anywhere. They're still on hold. But if under Biden, sanctions similar to those Lindsey Graham prepared for Russia had been imposed, Russia would have long since been unable to wage war. So, yeah. But there just isn't a simple off button to hit and that's it. Iran's done. There's no such button. But a real economic collapse is possible with a combined and such a blow delivered in several waves. Overall, the current situation in the region is teetering between the rapid containment of Iran's missile and nuclear program or a shift toward a full-scale regional war. And then everything will spiral out of control. Global energy markets will react, and the entire belt of Iran's proxy structures will be activated. I think financially they might not be able to handle it. In general, the next 24 hours will show which of the two tracks it will be. A short one, I think it will be shorter. On the other hand, a full-blown escalation, it could spread across the entire region. And now Elon Musk has become the technical messiah for possible protest in Iran. Can you imagine? Honestly, lately, fate has really put Elon through the ringer. It's not easy for him. So users on X have suggested that Elon Musk deliver the final nail in the coffin of the Iranian regime. How exactly? By providing Iranian citizens with access to the internet through the Starlink satellite network. In other words, the Post claimed that the Iranian authorities had completely shut down the internet to prevent citizens from coordinating and organizing protests. Yes, and what's interesting is that they even have this patrol that searches for Starlink terminals, driving around with special equipment. Everything there is very strict, like something out of the future. So, but to this, Musk replied, signals are on, literally, which means that the orbital part of the satellites is deployed and active over Iran. If you have a Starlink terminal, that's it. You can work directly. And why is this necessary? First of all, Musk publicly confirmed back in March 2024 that when there were major protests, remember Women Life Freedom, at that time, this orbital constellation was also deployed, and it meant that people could access the internet through Starlink terminals because the authorities were blocking and jamming everything they could. So this is a serious matter. These are serious risks for the Iranian regime. I looked at the quantity to see how many terminals were brought in and for what purpose. And most importantly, for what purpose. That is, there is an opportunity, first of all, to upload videos of attacks, videos of strikes on Iran, to record all of this and show it, because right now the regime has complete control over the media and says, no, nothing happened, they didn't hit anything. All our nuclear facilities are intact. When the results of the strikes are recorded explosions, debris flying everywhere, this gets uploaded online and creates the impression that the regime is, to put it bluntly, lying, and that's actually the case. Plus, there's the ability to work and access banking apps through VPNs. So, in general, there's an opportunity for an alternative point of view for uploading materials online and for reporting on the situation on the ground. And right now, the Iranian regime is very afraid of protests, extremely afraid. That's why they have real surveillance over these terminals. And yes, indeed, those radio patrols drive around and detect the signal signature. So yes, that's how it is. I watched the film once, I can't remember the name, but I'll find it and tell you about it in the next program. It's exactly about how all of this works over there. I looked up how many terminals are currently in Iran. According to various estimates, it's about 25,000. Why is this important? Well, because one terminal, roughly speaking, can serve one courtyard, and several houses can access the internet through it and coordinate protest movements. The availability of the internet is also very important. So if the number of terminals exceeds 50,000, then large-scale jamming will become very difficult for the regime, both technically and financially. That's why they're doing everything they can right now. And Elon Musk, like a messiah, has deployed an orbital constellation. I'm sitting here in a silver hood. Now I'll show you all. Well, in this regard, Elon Musk has done a great job. But for the current Iran-Israel escalation, this means that the more the Starlink window remains open over Iran, the harder it will be for the authorities to hide the truth. And I hope that finally a truly civilized, forward-thinking and progressive regime will eventually emerge in Iran in the foreseeable future.